What's up, War Report family? It is your boy C-Dub. Today, we talk about realistically what improvement should Auburn fans expect in year 2 under Hugh Freeze. Also, road woes return again for Auburn basketball as they fall to Florida on the road. We will discuss that and more in today's edition of the Weekend Tailgate.
This is the Weekend Tailgate. Brought to you by Golden Cast Iron. C-Dub. Like Joe. Be Will. By G. You are now listening to.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of the Weekend Tailgate, courtesy of our show sponsor, Golden's Cast Iron. Guys, if you're trying to get your weight up or if you're just trying to grill out, head to goldenscastiron.com/WR where you can use code Get Your Weight Up for 15% off of weights or code TWR for $65 off of fire pits and Kamado grills. Please support us by supporting our sponsors. Special shout out to Golden's Cast Iron for being a sponsor of our Weekend Tailgate experience. Also, I want to thank you guys for hanging out with us. Got a great conversation for you guys, so please be sure to share it with your friends so that they can have access to it. Y'all can have discussions, conversations about it. Smash that like button. And if you're new to the channel, we would love for you to subscribe. We have some great perks for our members. Those are the Green Name Gang. I can tell you how to get access to that and what you should expect as a member of such.
It's real simple to get down with the Green Name Gang. You got to join. Click the join button. Membership is as shown on the screen here. And you get perks like getting to hang out with me and watching film on all the lovely things going on with Auburn sports, particularly basketball and football. If you are a member and you want to gift a membership, you can do that right now from the live chat, and somebody can get a free month of that membership on you. If you want to get a mug, hashtag Get Your Weight Up right now, sponsored by GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. We'll do a drawing at some point during the show. Y'all stay tuned for that. And lock in with the network. The Auburn Podcast Network is here for you. Auburn Express, Uptempo Podcast, College Loop, Just a Sec Pods, all here dropping Auburn content.
All right, gentlemen, let's get into it. Let's talk about what type of improvement should Auburn fans expect under Coach Hugh Freeze. Auburn finished the season 6-7, so obviously we know that there is room for improvement based on what we observed. Let's take a look at what current head coaches have done in year 2 so far in the SEC. Let's take a look at that. So you see the graphic here. Brian Kelly in year 1 did well. Took LSU to the SEC championship. In year 2, followed that up with another 10-win season. Obviously, they didn't make it to the SEC championship, so they didn't play as many games, but still a 10-win season nonetheless. So pretty consistent so far under Brian Kelly at LSU. Kirby Smart went 8-5. Year 2, I believe that was the SEC championship year that they beat Auburn, unfortunately, and went to the college football playoff that year. So a huge year 2 under Kirby Smart. Shane Beamer went from 7-6 to 8-5. Sam Pittman went 3-7 and then 9-4. A bit of fool's goal after that because Arkansas
came back to earth.
Came back down to earth after that season. But nevertheless, he did improve in year 2 from a record standpoint. Josh Heupel went 7-6 in year 1. 11-2 had that great year. Injuries pretty much stalled out their season. They were expected to be a playoff contender at one point, but a big year 2 kind of fell back a little bit. I think they won 10 games this year, or
something like
9
that,
games,
yeah.
something like that. So still a decent year 3 under Josh Heupel, but we see a 4-game improvement for Josh Heupel. This is an interesting one here. Billy Napier, 6-7, 5-7 here. And he is on the hot seat. His seat
I
is
want to
pretty
camp
warm.
out there just because Florida beat us so bad yesterday, but I ain't going to do it.
We're not going to be petty. We're not going to be petty. Hey, there's plenty of time to be petty towards Florida. Some of the newcomers to the SEC, Steve Sarkisian, 5-7, had a 3-game improvement in year 2. We know what they did in year 3 with a college football playoff, making the college football playoff last year. Brent Venables, who really, it was interesting seeing Oklahoma, who has been a competitor for the college football playoff in year 1, take a serious slide under Brent Venables. Obviously, they had issues, QB injured, defense starting to round up and improve, lost a lot of games, but bounced back in year 2 and won 4 games, 4-game improvement for Brent Venables. Lane Kiffin had a 6-game improvement here. Mark Stoops improved from 2-10 to 5-7. Eli Drinkwitz improved 1 game. Clark Lee had a 3-game improvement at Vandy. What will Hugh Freeze do in year 2, gentlemen? And my question to you specifically, and I'll start with you, Ike, is from a record standpoint, we'll get into some of the specifics here, but from a record standpoint, what is the minimum amount of improvement that would be deemed acceptable by Auburn's fan base in year 2, coming off of a 6-7 season in year 1?
I mean, I think that most people are hoping for an 8-win season next year. I think 8 wins is about where most people want to see Auburn be. I specifically think 8 wins is where you need to be because I feel like Auburn could have gotten 8 wins in his first year. So I don't see any reason why even though I don't know that this roster is drastically improved, but there is a lot of talent on this roster, with talent being a thing that's available to you now. Auburn needs to be able to come out here and put that talent on display and get yourself to 8 wins. It's not going to be an easy task. I don't think 8 wins is a guaranteed thing. I just think 8 wins is around where you need to be to make yourself comfortable.
All right, so 8 wins, Ike, basically it keeps Hugh Freeze's seat from warming up. So it is anything if he goes. Let's say if he goes 7-5,
I think he could go 7-5 this season and not be on a hot seat because of how good the recruiting is going. And I think that will have a lot to do with how well the offense performs. If your defense takes a step back, but your offense steps up, I think you'll be fine with 7 wins.
Okay.
I think the only thing that gets you in hot seat territory is if you are 6 or below in your win column, right? Where it's like, all right, great on this recruiting, bro, but what's up with these dubs? Especially like who the wins or the losses could be against, right? Like you can't just lose winnable games or matchups. And if you only win 6 games, you probably dropped a game that you probably should not have this season.
Right. Okay, so 7 keeps us on. I mean, 7 games is improvement. Right.
Yeah, I mean it's a 1-game improvement.
It's a 1-game improvement, and
I think
keeps
and I say 7 regular season wins, right? Like I don't include the bowl game in that. Like if you go to a bowl game and you get to 7 that way, I don't think that that's going to be. I think that still puts you in a danger category. I won't say hot seat, but you're still in a.
You won 6 regular season games. You matched last season's.
Correct. Yeah. Right. No, you've got to get to 7 in the regular season.
Yeah.
Okay. B. Will, for you, what do you think the fan base will be clamoring for versus what do you see as actual improvement for this team that's realistic?
Improved quarterback play, because that was the thing that I think may have let us down. And
so you don't put it on a number of wins that you think is just about how well the offense performs?
Yes and no. So we know the defense had its issues with depth, but we also know that the offense was terrible early in the season to the point where, yeah, you gave the defense a chance, but your offense looked bad. Like it was almost as if this offense was a meter that you had to dial down. So hopefully we stayed in the game and had a chance to win it because your defense couldn't go through too much pressure. And that meter right there, that play safe here so we can protect you there. If your offense isn't the liability that you need to tune every game, then I think you stand a better chance of winning games. And I think the fan base can accept some losses if you see, well, you know what, we gave them hell, or we had a last drive where we needed to tie the game. We went down and got points and did it, but we lost in overtime. Or, you know, we didn't get blown out at LSU. We didn't get it handed to us. Well, there's a lot of places in next season where we can get it handed to us, but we had a fighting chance here, and it wasn't just, well, it was a one-score game against Ole Miss. It was a one-score game against Georgia. It was a one-score game against Bama. Bama was a winnable game. The other two, did you really feel like we were about to put up the points to win that game? No. And to me, that was the indictment on the offense and on the offensive coaching last season, was that, can you do something for us? Can you drive the ship? Can you control the game? The offense very rarely controlled the game last year. I think if you control the game from the offensive side, then the team is starting to feel like, well, at least you know what you're doing over here. At least we see some path to improvement, and you've got something to build on. Like last season was, it kind of grated on your nerves, but also your hopes. Like, is this the best y'all can do? I think offensive output will be what determines how the season is received. Wins and losses, I'm with you, Ike. I think 8 is perfect. 7 is like, all right. But if it's 6 wins, that's where I think the offensive side, the offensive output is going to play the biggest part in how that's received next year. Do we lose C?
Looks like it. Think Caesar went out here. I mean, listen. So you don't put a number on it for wins and losses at all?
Yes, a point that Mike has made is that, well, yeah, this 6-6 next year would actually be an accomplishment, and 6-6 this year was an underachieved. We underachieved because the schedule was so easy. I don't like to say, well, you got this that year, why don't you get that this year? We're playing different people. We're playing them in different places. Teams could be better, significantly better. Maybe some could be worse. We got a lot of cupcakes on our schedule. We had a couple, Arkansas and Ole Miss, namely, that not Ole Miss, excuse me, Mississippi State, that were gimmies. We don't have those gimmies on the schedule this year. So how do we go out and perform against the schedule that we have? Just line them up. Who are you going to play? How equipped are you to play well against those teams? I can't put us up against Georgia and say, hey, you should be able to win this game. No, I shouldn't. So how many teams are outclassing us?
All right, so let's look at that, though. How many viably, based upon, like, just let's look at roster for roster. We don't know what the totality of those rosters are going to be, but roster for roster, how many games do you think Auburn should win just if we lined it up right now with what we know? Hey, Auburn should be able to get this game no matter what, right? Now, last year we would have said New Mexico State was one of those games, and we didn't get that. But I'm going to put New Mexico in that category. And then was Alabama A&M initially that we play, or is it State?
Is it A&M or State? I don't remember. Check it
out. So just whichever one that is, we should be able to get that win, right?
Right.
I mean, how many? How many gimme games
I say 7.
do you think that there are on the schedule? 3,
there are
4?
7 gimmies. There are 7 winnable games on our schedule.
So if you lose, if you don't win at least 7, does that not put you in danger close category?
How do we lose them though? And that's why.
Does it matter if there are 7 games that you're supposed to win?
Yeah, I think it matters. I say this. We lost to New Mexico State.
So how many of those 7 games can you lose regardless of how you lose them and it not feel bad?
One.
So you need at least 6 wins.
I think you need at least 6 where you look formidable. And I know it sounds like, well, how could you be formidable? If you look like you know what you're doing on offense, if the defense takes a step back, with how much we turned over that staff, is everybody going to be really up in arms about that? With what you've lost in the defensive backfield, is everybody going to be really upset about that? I think there's much more leeway on defense, which is why we've gone through a very tough offensive 3-4 years, to be honest with you. Everybody's ready to see that turnaround. The fan base is ready to see that turnaround. Because of what it would mean to be bad on offense next year, which means an offensive head coach who makes his money coaching offense and makes his money making quarterbacks look good, had a year 1 where it's probably his worst offensive coaching as a head coach. I don't know since when. I don't know what his early Ole Miss days look like. You can't be bad at what you do best and continue to get the benefit of the doubt from the fan base. That's why we're so frustrated with Gus. This is what you do. This is what you know. Why are you bad at this? Like if the defense is bad, we'll go, oh man, the defense is bad. 2014, the defense was bad. It's the reason we weren't better. We didn't win 2 or 3 more games. And everybody was like, oh man, you do what you got to do. He fired Ellis Johnson. We got somebody else in there, and it made a significant difference. I just don't think you can be bad at offense when you are an offensive coach and keep the goodwill of the fan base. That's why I think even if we drop some games, if the defense takes a step back or two and we lose 2 games that we could have won, but we gave up too many points, if we are slinging the ball, scoring points, we see this young talent that Hugh Freeze recruited being productive, scoring points, and they're starting to break out, I think everybody will be like, man, we hate that, but at least things are looking up right here. We got a shot every time we get on the field, even if we lose a game that we shouldn't have lost. You can't go out there and be bad on offense, scoring 10 points against a New Mexico and losing at home and expect to keep the goodwill of the fan base. It can't be bad on offense. That's what I'm saying.
All right, gentlemen, my apologies. I dropped out. I'm back, though. I will say this. I will say it would need to be 7 is reasonable, but I'm going to go for 8. Just because you had 8 games within grasp this year. Again, to your point, if you come out and you don't sleepwalk against New Mexico State, or you look better prepared in your bowl game, or you actually defend the 4th and 31, or don't fumble a punt, those things that kind of determine whether or not you win and lose game, that's 8 wins right there in year 1. It was in your grasp. So if you are actually taking a step forward as a team in year 2, there's no reason to expect a 2-game improvement upon what you did, knowing that you actually had two games that you squandered last year. So obviously different opponents this year. Again, we're playing Oklahoma. They weren't on our schedule last year. So it's a new challenges. But again, there are going to be some teams that struggle. There are going to be some teams that you have better athletes against. I expect them to be better prepared. There are other things we're going to get into here, but I expect a 2-game improvement. B, you talked about improved QB play. Ike, have you had a chance to talk about what are some of the things that you want to see specifically that needs to improve to ensure that Auburn at least looks better in the win-loss column in year 2?
Offense for sure, right? Like there's a couple of things. We're going to start with the obvious one, which is the passing game specifically, because even though I think that the run game could have been better this past season, I think that Auburn did well in run blocking, and I think that our running backs, again, it didn't feel like it, but Jarquez Hunter almost had 1,000 yards last season, right? So the run game wasn't necessarily an issue for Auburn. Could have been better. Wasn't helped out a lot by the fact that we couldn't pass the ball. Right. So the pass game specifically absolutely has to be better this year. If you don't have over 2,000 yards passing this season, burn it to the ground, figure something else out, because whatever you're doing is not working. Yeah. There's no reason for 4 of the best wide receivers in this class being on your campus. You have a guy as talented as Jay Fair. You have one of the best tight ends, pass-catching tight ends in the country in Rivaldo Fairweather, all on the same football team, and you can't pass for 2,000 yards. It becomes sad at some point in time to think about the squandering of talent in this pass game if you're not capable of at least. And 2,000 is like in the basement of where you need to be. I'm saying if it ain't 2,000, we got to have some serious conversations. So give me 2,000 plus yards and figure it out. But I think that the pass offense absolutely has to be better. The other portion that needs to get better for this team, I think, is going to be the run defense, specifically how that front 7 is playing against the run, because you're going to potentially take a step back in your pass defense as far as your defensive back play. So you've got to be – we were not nearly as good as we needed to be in the trenches last year.
I agree.
And so – this is why you have the defensive coordinator that you have in here. This is why it's important, that they brought that continuity with the defensive line coach. You need to be able to have some better play on the interior, specifically on defense next season. And I think being more stout against the run and Lord, please let us be able to rush a passer this year and get some sort of pass rush. That needs to take. Forget number 2. That's number 2. I said number 2 was run defense, and I'm still in the trenches there. We need to be able to generate a pass rush, please.
Yeah.
Pass game, pass rush defense.
Yeah. The pass rush aside, because we do have incoming talent from high school who will fill out the depth there. Interested to see how fast they come along. But my question, Ike, is you had some portal additions, but not a lot has changed with the front 7. Mm-hmm. You lose Marcus Harris, which you can make an argument that's a net loss. We don't know what the incoming guys will contribute to this team in terms of depth or who takes a step forward. That's what spring camp is for. Right. If that's an area of concern, given how we performed last year, how much hope do you have to see a vast improvement in year 2?
I have a decent amount of hope just because I believe in the defensive play caller and his ability to generate front 7s that are fierce. He's done it everywhere he's been. DJ Durkin has improved the front 7 every spot that he's stopped as defensive coordinator. I'm expecting the same thing to happen this year for Auburn. So I think we have more just natural pass rush talent this year.
Right.
I mean, just guys who are complete. Like Jalen McLeod was not there the entirety of the year. He's not the only speed rush guy that's going to be on this team this year. Yeah. So because you have more talent in the ability to get pressure off of the edge, where I'm concerned is how stout you're going to be in the middle, right? To be able to just hold what you got while those guys on the outside do their thing, because you're just essentially going to be having a situation where they're double teaming everybody on the outside or chipping and all that kind of stuff. So I have confidence, but it's a work in progress for sure.
Gotcha. B. Will, you've talked about what you needed to see. You talked about QB play, passing the passing game. Anything else?
I hate to sound like a terrible, awful, broken record about QB play, but I mean, aside from that, defensive backfield. It's not that I don't think we have the talent. I think we have the talent in the defensive backfield, and we have the talent at linebacker, but they've got to find it quickly, because whatever we do at quarterback, we assume that we're going to have some leeway early because our softest part of our schedule is early on. So yes, but is that going to be worked out by the fall? Well, if not, then we need something to be kind of worked out in that defensive backfield, because we can't afford to go against a Cal team. And don't get me wrong, I don't think they have the talent to match up with us, but they didn't have the talent to match up with us last year. So that was a way tighter game than it should have been. You've got to pick a quarterback who you think can get you to who's got your highest ceiling, put him in there at front, let him struggle. So while he's struggling and figuring it out, the defense has got to hold it down. Our defense, they did a good job early last year. They got banged up. Things got changed. McLeod didn't get in there till late, which, again, Ike said we didn't have any pass rush. Can they find that combination of starting corners, starting safeties? We know Keontae Scott is likely going to be your star. That's locked down. Okay, great. Who's lining up at linebacker? Is it going to be Asante and Keys? You've got some highly, highly touted linebacker prospects. I've heard nothing but great things about. Are any of them going to be good enough to maybe break into the lineup? Maybe, just depending on the personnel. I would love to see those guys surprise us. I think they need to get together by the end of the spring. The offense has gotten until maybe a couple of games into the fall, but the defensive backfield, we don't have a lot of carryover as far as the coaching staff. We know Etheridge was back there. He's not back there anymore. Does Coach McGriff do something different? Does Charles Kelly decide, well, this is how I like this. I actually like that guy over there. They've got to figure that out quickly so that they can be our, I guess you could say, our fallback. They've got to help us out while the offense figures it out, because I'm completely okay with the offense struggling for the first month or so. If you pick the right guy, give him some room to figure it out. I need the defense to figure it out a little sooner. So I'm looking for that defensive backfield and linebacker core to step up quickly.
You seem to be talking a lot from what you would expect here. Do you think the fan base agrees with this assessment that you have of we're okay with the offense struggling the first couple of games for the long haul?
They're not. But again, That was the issue with whether it was going to be Robbie or Holden. Oh, well, this guy's coming in from Michigan State with all this experience. That experience didn't amount to anything on the field. So I think we need to fall out of love with, here are the numbers where he came from. Here's what he has possibly done. Who can be great right now? You figure the fan base has enough experience with getting hype about somebody who's done something before. Like, that doesn't really amount to much. In a lot of places, it doesn't amount. I thought Graham Mertz would be the worst quarterback in the conference last year because he sucked at Wisconsin. He was good at Florida. They had a lot of problems. Graham Mertz was not the problem. Let's stop thinking about what somebody did before, what you remember of them. You put a player with a different coach, a different system, and you maximize that talent. Florida was able to do that with Graham Mertz. We were not able to do that with our quarterback. I would think that the fan base would go, I'm done counting chickens before they hatch. I want to see it on the field. And if that means there's going to be some growing pains, so be it.
For me, I'll jump in real quick and give some of the things that I want to see improve. The identity of the offense. I want to see that takes shape, and I want to see us better utilize our talent in year 2. The best room we have, guys, on offense is a running back room. How are we going to utilize them while bringing along the talent in the wide receiver room? How does Hugh Freeze and staff handle that? It seems like it was weird seeing a coach who's known for throwing the ball basically employ a strong, like a running attack and completely abandon the pass, even when we needed to at times. I'm curious to see what Hugh Freeze, Derek Nix, and the rest of the coaching staff figures out in terms of how we're going to attack defenses in year 2 and actually be good at it. The management of the QB room. We got to better manage this QB room in year 2. And Hugh Freeze, for continuity's sake, that's your word, be will, and as well as for taking the step forward, it depends on how well you manage the room. We want to see whoever becomes QB1, it's because they actually are the best QB. They're showing in practice that they're the best QB. The players are excited about this person as QB1, not because you need this QB to settle down, not because this QB is pressing. I'm promoting this guy because he gives us the best chance to win, because he shows it day in and day out, whether it's in the film room or on the field. He gives us he gives us the best chance to win. The players respond to this guy, his leadership. This is our guy. I want that type of messaging around our starting QB in the QB room, as well as cohesiveness of the coaching staff and players, because obviously the turnover for me was kind of an eye-opener. We always have turnover with coaching staff, but some of the things that came out from this past season, Hugh Freeze and Philip Montgomery, Ron Roberts, I want to see this coaching staff on the same page, because if they're not on the same page, how can the players be on the same page? These are things that need to be improved going into year 2. The Derek Nix experiment needs to work. And I'm hoping that DJ Durkin is definitely a step forward on the defensive side of the ball with the coaches, the veteran coaches we have over there. I want to see better. I think those things begin to come together. I think you begin to see a lot of buy-in and closeness with this team. These are some of the intangibles that I want to see improve so that we can get back to focusing on ball and winning games, man. I'm ready for us to win games. I don't want to hear about this side stuff that's going on that's undermining our ability to compete at a high level on Saturdays. So if we get those things out of the way, I like our chances. We're going to grab some of you guys' comments after the break, but we definitely hope you've been enjoying the conversation so far. Share this with some of your friends so you can get the conversation started, whether in your group chat, message boards, wherever the case may be. Share this content, smash that like button. Subscribe if you are new to the channel. We greatly appreciate it. You are watching the Weekend Tailgate. When we return, we will take your comments and then talk Auburn basketball.
This edition of the War Report is brought to you by our generous sponsors. The Opelika Rage Room in Opelika, Alabama. The Rage Room is a place where anger and stress find their ultimate release. Call or text 334-777-6688 to set up a session today, or check them out online at opelika-rageroom.com. Golden's Cast Iron. Whether you work out, grill out, or chill out, you deserve the best life possible, and Golden's Cast Iron is here to provide the tools to help you do it. Check them out at goldenscastiron.com.
Thank you to all the sponsors of the War Report. Thank you to those of you who are members of the War Report family. We appreciate you guys being Green Name Gang. To continue to support us, or if you would like to continue to support us in that way, you can join by clicking that join button below the video, and you can get all the perks that you see here. Specifically, we got a lot of film that you guys can review with us. A lot of great things to talk about during basketball season and this off season with football. You can gift the membership if you're already a member, and somebody can get a free month of membership on you. So right now in the live chat, you can decide how many memberships you want to gift and how many people will be able to get those free memberships. Hashtag get your weight up in the live chat, and we're going to be giving away a mug courtesy of GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. So somebody can get a free mug today. Hashtag get your weight up. We'll be doing that drawing here in just a minute. And make sure you're locked in with the network, the College Loop, Auburn Express, Uptempo Podcast, Just a Sec Pod, and forgot to hit y'all up with the fact that we do have a new betting sponsor. BetUS is who is sponsoring us on the betting stuff. So on our basketball things going into March Madness, we are going to be doing a lot of content on betting. So if you want to get in with that, make sure you lock in with us. There is a link in the description on BetUS that will get you a 125% sign-up bonus up to $2,500 using the link down there. And that's with BetUS. Appreciate everybody who supports us in that way as well.
And we appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We even appreciate when you interact and continue our amazing community that we have. You guys are having conversations, side conversations as we're talking amongst ourselves. That's one of the things we enjoy. But sometimes you guys ask us questions or you comment. We definitely want to run through those real quick. Wesley Hilson, appreciate you being here with us. He says, I think a 3-game improvement is reasonable. A lot more starters back on the offensive line than the previous year. Secondary is a concern with being so young. All right. Knox Cleveland says, I think 8-4 will be an improvement, plus a bowl win to be 9-4. So he agrees with Wesley on a 3-game improvement there. So some 3-game improvements here. He says, Chris S. asks, why does Napier still have a job? We'll ask that question after next season when he faces that gauntlet of a schedule that's waiting on him. Chris S. comes back and says, do we expect both sides of the line of scrimmage to regress?
I do not.
I don't expect
a regression, especially on offense. I think offense actually takes a step forward, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think from a talent standpoint, across the board, we might be a little bit better on the offense. Listen, man, I think that there are some young guys that have not played any snaps for Auburn along that offensive line that are going to be really good. Like when you looked at what Connor Liu came in and did, I think that there's going to be another person who can come out there and take that kind of step forward. And I'm looking forward to seeing what that person is going to be with Percy Miller coming in. I think that he's going to give you some better play from the offensive tackle position. Offensive line should be okay. It's the defensive line that I'm a little more worried about.
Right. Yeah. That is my concern there. Spring ball is I'm going to be paying close attention. That when we talk about some of the things we look at as spring ball, we would definitely talk defensive line for sure. Chris S. says 7-5 could lose recruits, and then the rapport he's built with recruiting dissipates. That seat will warm.
I disagree. The only reason I think 7-5 doesn't lose recruits is, per my previous comments, is it using the young guys and letting them figure things out? If they are playing, if they are productive, but one unit on the defense just is a black hole for us and they can't hold anybody. Okay, well, you understand why you're losing those games or why you're getting outscored. But if you've got a young guy, a Hank Brown, or even a Holden Gerner, and they're getting the ball out to these wide receivers and they're happy, I think you can continue to recruit because you can still say, I put these young guys on the field. I told you was going to come out here and ball. You were out here. You were balling. Don't worry. I'm a patch up the holes that lost us these games, but stick with me because I did what I said I was going to do. That gets recruits at least like, okay, well, he's doing it, so I'm still with you.
We'll definitely see how he utilizes the young talent because, again, if you're trying to recruit QBs down the stretch, you got to utilize the receivers because that's who you've been talking up to these QB recruits. Right. They got to show something on the field for sure. Right. So that's very important. Drake Barefoot says 8 wins minimum. Wesley comes back and says, would it be fair to say if Thorne is the starter that 9 wins should be the expectation? 7 and 8 if it is someone else?
I don't know how you have higher expectations of Peyton Thorne as the starting quarterback than you do of anybody else. I think your expectation, the only reason I maybe agree with that is that I have to trust that Coach Hugh Freeze is firmly convinced that Peyton Thorne is far and above better, right? Like I've said this before, I don't think Peyton Thorne can narrowly win a QB competition and be the guy going into the fall. He's got to be far, because you've seen him in games as opposed to these other guys. So if it's close, I'm going with the younger guy.
Right.
And I'm going to take my chances on him and just say Peyton's going to be my backup in case I need to go to somebody with more experience. If it's even remotely close, I'm going with the younger guy.
Yeah, same.
So
And
if Peyton Thorne is the starter, in my opinion,
it doesn't affect the win-loss because you go with the younger guy.
right. Yeah, no, I think your win-loss needs to, I think you just have to trust the quarterback decision is the right one by the coach, and that decision ultimately will kind of determine your win-loss record, but I don't have a higher expectation with Peyton Thorne in that seat. In fact, I'm worried with Peyton Thorne in that seat unless I hear some things coming out of fall camp where it's like he is absolute. Because, listen, last year in fall camp, we heard struggle and pressing and uncertainty. Unless I hear that be very different, then I'm worried.
Yeah. Greg Wheatley comes in and says, to me, anything less than 7 is a huge disappointment. Greg, I agree, because it was less than 7 last year and we were all disappointed. So year 2, it would be a huge disappointment if we win less than 7 games. Agreed wholeheartedly. Wesley asks, any thoughts on Aldridge moving to the edges and Durkin taking linebackers?
Hey, man, he's the big boss. He's the top authority on that defensive side. If that's his specialty, you get it. You understand why Aldridge is going to edges. I assume that he has some skill, experience with the edges. I don't know that, but I hope it's somewhere he's comfortable and he can help those guys improve their fundamentals in their game. I assume that's the case. But, I mean, hey, I'm assuming that everybody who's on that staff has the fundamentals and has the know-how to improve these players' play, and we will see that in action this year. We got a lot of young players on the defense, so teachers being able to get their hands on young players, hopefully that is something that we see improve over the course of the season.
TK says another drawback, if that's the case, Walker White and Hank need to see the field a bunch against Cupcakes because it proves nothing to let Peyton Thorne flog weaklings. We've seen that movie. Flag.
I think he's flawed.
Basically, right. Flawed. Okay.
Yeah, he said right. That is what the worry was last year. It's like, oh man, look, he's the guy. It's like, against who though? This is not telling me anything. If you're gonna give anybody the cupcakes, give it to the guy who needs the most work, who has the most growth to go from where he's at to where his ceiling is. And I'm with you, Ike. Unless Peyton Thorne is just out there dotting I's in fall camp and making everybody else look like rookies, go with the younger guy and let them get that work in. 5 games is a ton of development for somebody who has potential but has not seen real game time. Please give that to the younger guys. Don't waste it on the old guy when you already know what he is. That's all I'm saying.
Greg Wheatley says, please let us get off the field on 3rd down. Let me talk about this one. Auburn actually, from a statistical standpoint, was amongst the best in 3rd down defense. Here was what was frustrating. Yeah. When we did give up 3rd downs, it was usually 3rd and long, which made it even worse, right? Made it appear worse than what it was.
And I'll add to that, see, we might not have been giving up a bunch of 3rd downs, but we made it where 4th down was a thing that they thought about doing a lot.
And they were actually more successful on 4th down. We were bad on 4th down.
That's because we would always give up 3rd and 15, and we'd give up like 13, 14 yards on it. So they had an acceptable 4th down to be able to get to. Yeah. And so they were like, all right, well, we can go for this 1-2 yard 4th down. Right. So, yeah, we got a lot of stops on 3rd down, but we weren't getting off the field.
Correct. So 3rd and long needs to improve.
Yeah.
For sure. That needs to improve. So Steph Trail asks, y'all think Jarquez Hunter can increase his draft stock on potentially less touches? Thoughts on that, guys?
On less, I don't think that the amount of touches is really going to be the thing that determines how good Jarquez's season is going to be. It's going to be the quality of his productivity during those touches, and that's going to have a lot to do with how well we throw the football. Yeah. If you're throwing the football well and Jarquez is not the focus of the defense, that's danger for any defense out there. If you got to play it straight up and he's going against an acceptable box, he's going to destroy a linebacker one-on-one. Yeah. So, yes, he can improve his stock. The biggest thing for Jarquez is going to be his ability to be a do-everything back. Is he going to be able to catch the ball out of the backfield? Is he going to be able to pass block a little bit more consistently? Those are the things that are going to improve his draft stock. I don't think people question whether or not Jarquez Hunter can run.
Right. And also, too, again, how you utilize these guys is going to determine is going to put them in position to showcase what they can do. If you have a struggling pass offense, it's going to be difficult for Jarquez to showcase other things, right? He could have easily have gotten over 1,000 yards if we could actually throw a forward pass when we wanted to, right? But because of that, teams stacked the box at times. I mean, even the game against Vandy was amazing because they were stacking the box. They were coming down, run blitzing, looking for the run. He just happened to find an open crease and was daylights, right? So if that offense begins to figure out how to utilize other skill position players, it opens it up for the other guys, the running backs, to eat in this offense. Hugh Freeze and staff have to figure out how to do that more consistently. All right, gentlemen, let's transition to basketball. It's maybe the tougher conversation to have. Auburn falls 81-65 against Florida after a big win against Bama a few days prior. Did Florida have the entire week?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that was possible.
Auburn's got a week break at some point in time coming up here soon as well.
Okay.
They plan that into everybody's schedule where you'll have a 1 week break between games. So, in light of that, your thoughts about this game? I mean, Ike, you talked about it in Lobtown post game show, but your thoughts about Auburn on the road? The fact that Florida had time to really prepare for Auburn, does that change certain things in your perspective, or some of the things that we saw against Auburn against Florida? The free throw shooting was abysmal. Right.
Turnovers were unacceptable. There were just certain things that was just like, okay, come on, guys, you're going to lose this game if this doesn't improve. What do you make of that game?
I definitely think that you were watching an Auburn team that was mentally and physically fatigued. But yes, that rest played huge dividends because not just in rest, it's in time to prepare, right? Like they had a whole week to decide this is how we're going to stop what Auburn does well and rep that stuff. And Auburn had essentially a day and a half to try to do that for Florida. Even if you scouted it, further in advance, your guys out there repping it, you didn't have as much time. That doesn't mean that Auburn would have won that game, but I don't think you get blown out by as much. You might lose that game narrowly if it had been equal preparation time, equal rest time. But listen, Auburn hasn't played well on the road. So, not playing well on the road against an opponent that's quality and against an opponent that has had more time to prepare and rest, that is a dangerous scenario.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Yeah, I didn't know before the broadcast that they had all week. Like, oh well, hell.
Right.
that would have changed my perspective on this game. Not just because we had came off of beating and hated Alabama team and we needed that get back, because that spins you emotionally somewhat. But Florida wasn't bad. Like we talked about this on Wednesday. Florida's not a bad team. They're not a bad team. I expected it to be a tight game no matter what one that we could win. But if you're telling me that they've just been sitting up and watching us play and scouting and re-scouting and planning and replanning, a day and a half, maybe a couple days of practices, and then you get on the road. Like this was it's not set up for failure. I don't want to use that phrase. I still don't think we win this game if Florida plays that well. Like they were hitting everything. Like you got to miss something for me. They shot well above their season percentages. The game was out of hand, and we tried to make a run a couple times. You got to miss some shots for us to make a run, man. You got to miss some shots, and they weren't trying to miss those shots. So that looked like a very well-rested, well-prepared team to their advantage. I'm glad everybody gets one. So that means we'll win whoever's going to be on the other side of our break. But man, you hate for the turnovers to happen. I think Florida getting out to the start that they did, it then put the pressure on us. And I saw it happen in real time. Guys start going, all right, I'm going to get us back in this with this shot right here. No, that's not it. Don't take that shot because we got plenty of time. It's still the first half. But that's college players do that. You know, they don't like being in that position where they feel like it's getting away from them. So they try to get it all back. And I don't necessarily fault them for that. Florida comes out hot. You have a couple turnovers. It puts you in a different state of mind as a player. You feel differently. Your game plan was your game plan, but you feel like you're getting hit in the mouth. So you need to do something to stop what's going on. And that's what puts college players at a disadvantage, I think, mentally and emotionally. So, yeah, you prepared. Yeah, you thought about how you were going to run your offense or how you were going to defend them. But, man, they had plenty. They had plenty to offer. They did some things I'm sure that they had not done prior to this game, specifically to attack us so that we could prepare, and then they wouldn't be ready for we wouldn't be ready for what they were going to throw at us. Well coached, and you kind of expect it. I think we're going to have to talk about this more at some point. When coaches really go up against coaches they know really well, they know exactly how to counter what you're good at and what you're going to do. That's something we've seen a couple times from different coaches around the country, but it does play a factor, and I think we got got. It doesn't change how I feel about this team, though. Let me make that clear. We got, and we talked about it on the morning drop on Friday, me and Ike. We were saying that I can tolerate a loss to Florida. I can tolerate a loss to Tennessee. The rest I expect to win, and I still feel that way.
All right. And B, I already told you my concerns with this team was on the road, right? If the NCAA tournament, SEC tournament was in Neville Arena, I would be booming with confidence about this team. I mean, this is nothing different than anyone else's team. It's obviously a tougher game when you play on the road. Yeah. But understanding that Florida had a whole week to prepare explained a lot in this game, because it just seems like Florida, to their credit, was a step faster. They were a lot more crisp. We seem kind of sluggish. Again, to Ike's point, we seem fatigued compared to Florida. And it showed in those hustle plays, those loose balls. It just seems like Florida just was a step ahead of us the entire game. And it makes sense that way. So I give a little bit of reprieve to Auburn. But again, I've always been concerned about this team on the road, because I've always alluded to, we know that even if he struggles, Janai Broome is going to get us close to his average of 15 points. He got us 14 points in this game. Yeah. He's going to do what Janai does. Can we count on that second scorer to take the pressure off? Yeah. That guy was KD, but KD comes off the bench. Yeah. I'm looking at guys like a Jay Will. I'm looking at some guys that we know who are capable of scoring and getting points. Those guys didn't show up. I've been very surprised that we're at this point in the season, and it seems like Aiden Holloway's confidence appears to be affecting him in how he plays the game. I expected him to be a bit more impactful in games. So to me, there's certain things to me that makes me concerned when we get on the road. I should be able to count on certain people, especially their leadership, to shine in these moments. This is a game that was tailor-made for Jalen Williams, or even Aiden Holloway, or even a Chad Baker-Mazara. Some of the guys that I expect, hey, we need your leadership to shine in this game. And it just seems like Auburn, from the moment it tipped off, was just playing catch up the rest of the way. Yeah. Question, gentlemen. Obviously, we know moving forward next week, Auburn's got some big games at home. And this is usually where Auburn regroups. And when they have a tough, they did it a week or so ago when they lost on the road against Bama and against Mississippi State. What should we expect from this team at Neville Arena? Obviously, they're going to come back with something to prove. A lot at stake. 2 ranked opponents coming in. How are we feeling about next week with Auburn? Start with you, Ike.
South Carolina's a tough team, right? So it doesn't get easier just because you go back home. That South Carolina team is going to come in not afraid of that environment. They're going to come in ready to prove a bunch. Like they play with a chip on their shoulder every single game because they were picked to finish last in the conference, if I'm not mistaken. So they just have an attitude of people don't believe in us and we're going to go out here and prove everybody wrong. And this is going to be the biggest challenge that they faced since people started believing in them, right? They're a top 25 ranked team. They want to prove that that's not a fluke because they struggled early against Vanderbilt. And some people were like, I don't know, So that's going to be a tough game. But it's a game that, again, I don't think that there's a team left on this schedule that Auburn can't beat. So yes, Auburn can get the win specifically at home. Then after that, you got to play Kentucky, which, Kentucky at home I feel a lot better about because, again, everybody struggles on the road, and Kentucky defensively is kind of suspect. Like they decide when they want to play defense every now and then. Yeah. And so I'm a little less worried about that. I'm more worried about South Carolina than I am about Kentucky at this point in time because it's at home and Kentucky's defense isn't. Tennessee on the road is going to be tough because Tennessee is a good defensive team and Tennessee has a go-to scorer. And despite how much you can plan for a guy who can score the way that Dalton Knecht does at his height is very difficult to game plan for because he doesn't have like a hole in his game where it's like, well, just keep him off he could go either hand and finish in the paint. He can score from the outside. He can score from the mid-range. He can post up. He can do all the stuff. So you've got to have an effective plan to take him out of the game or say, all right, you can have yours. Nobody else is getting anything, though. You got to score 80 tonight, bro. So I don't know which of those strategies Auburn is going to do, but they've got to figure out how to take some offense on the road. So that's a tough stretch coming up. And then every other game after that, I think, if Auburn's not favored, they should be favored to win. I think Auburn's favored to win in most of these games as well, except for Tennessee. But still, the rest of those games, I'm not discounting them, but I'm not as worried about the back half of the schedule after Tennessee.
Right. I agree. I think the next 2 weeks are going to be, it's going to tell us a lot. 2 at home, 2 on the road. Georgia, I mean, again, the head coach there knows Bruce. Yeah. And when he was at Florida, he made things tough for Bruce. So again, how we look on the road, understanding the conditions, I understand what happened against Auburn, but what I want to see some better play. May not necessarily means we beat Tennessee. What I don't want to see happen is we don't look like we belong on the floor with Tennessee. Yeah. I don't want to see that. I want us to be in those games because, again, that gives me hope. It's not like we're going to be on the road on team's court in the tournament. They're neutral site games, right? But there's some things that needs to travel, to your point, Ike, needs to travel with this team. And there are going to be some guys that, hey, if Janai is going to do this, we can depend on this guy to do this. We could depend on this guy to do this. It shouldn't be a by committee. Hey, who's going to show up and help Janai offensively, right? So those are things, again, against Ole Miss, it was a committee. Like everybody was on, everybody was hot. Realistically, that's not going to happen every road game. But there should be 1 or 2 guys that we should expect, hey, we know this guy's going to play his game. And I would like to see, I'm calling him, I want to see Jalen Williams affect the game. He may not be the sharpest, but again, I want to see you impact the game positively. 6 points, no boards. That's not a game we need from Jay Will at this point in his career. He's played too much basketball. He has to play better in games like that when we're looking for someone to step up. Yeah. Thoughts, gentlemen?
I agree. Jay Will not showing up for most of the game yesterday was the biggest disappointment. And again, just one guy showing up doesn't make that much of a difference because of how well Florida was shooting. Sure. That was going to be a tough game to win anyway. But still, like, you want to know Jay Will's going to get us at least 12, 13 points, 4 or 5 boards. And he's going to be able to, when we get him into the paint and he wants to just back the guy down and throw a little hook up, he's going to be able to hit it 3 or 4 times in a half. Like, that's possible with him. And as a 5th-year senior, I think we should be able to expect that from him. So him still having these games where he's just kind of going through the motions for a large part of the game, that's still puzzling to me. I figured Jay Will would be who we could count on in these situations. Broom and Jay Will, Chad Baker-Mazar has been I knew we were getting a dog of a defender and a fiery dude. I didn't know he was going to be able to produce offense the level he has. But I still think Jay Will should be the one we can count on to say, you might get 12. I should be able to count on 12, but you might get 20, and I wouldn't be surprised. You might get 25. I wouldn't be surprised because you have the skill and you have the ability. I think it's got to be Jay Will, man, because so far I think the games will be lost. Florida, Bama, in conference. Who's our Mississippi State? I know he played poorly in all of these games. That's been the biggest difference in all of these games is that Jay Will has not found his offense early enough for it to make a difference. I need Jay Will to step up.
Was that an aberration in terms of free throw shooting?
I mean, considering we've shot the free throws better literally every single game this year, I'm going to say yes. Like, I don't know. I mean, I'm hoping it's not a trending direction, but like it's been the opposite since we hit conference play. Like, they've shot the ball. I mean, you've had some inopportune misses for sure, but like it hadn't been that bad.
Right.
Like there was not a single person who stepped to the free throw line except for Chaney Johnson for whatever reason yesterday. Chaney was the only person who was hooping the whole game when he was in there.
He had a good game.
I didn't understand that.
He had a good game for sure.
I didn't understand how Chaney was the only dude who couldn't really like miss. Like he was hitting little mid-range joints. He fumbled the ball a couple of times because it's apparently what Chaney does. If the ball is outside of his frame, he ain't really gonna catch it. Like it needs to be squarely where it's supposed to be for him right now. But defensively, he was where he needed to be. He was hustling to the rebounds. He made, open shots when he had them. I think he only missed one shot the whole game. It was a 3, and it was a good look. I think that's a shot that he needs to make a little bit more consistently. But yeah, he was the only person who did miss a free throw. Like everybody else who went to the free throw line missed a free throw. Like it just was one of those games where it's like, okay, yeah, so we're just not in this game at all. Like there was nothing that looked fluid about that game except for that one small stretch defensively when we switched to zone initially. Auburn looked outmatched in every facet of that game. Now, the statistics don't show that, which is crazy because the second half Auburn played much better. It was actually second half scoring was completely tied. Auburn only lost the rebounding battle by a couple of boards. Actually shot a better percentage from the field ultimately at the end of the game. But the big difference was free throw line and three-pointers as far as offense was concerned. Three-pointers was like they shot like 18% or something. I'm not even looking. I'm just trying to something like 18% from three.
And Florida went crazy.
And free throw percentage was like 50-something%. Like it was disgusting what we shot from three and from free.
Right. We would definitely. I guess we need to figure out what we need to do about because I think the South Carolina game was a 7:30 game, so we need to decide if we're going to be a midweek report on a Thursday. We would definitely keep you guys posted on that because that will be a huge game. When Auburn takes on South Carolina in Neville Arena on Wednesday. Let's get to some of the comments here. James Barnett asks, fellas, why do people act like Auburn is the only team that got beat by non-ranked teams, especially away games? It happened yesterday all over college basketball. Shaking my head.
Tis the season. This year is just crazy, man. Anybody
that's
can
just
get
the nature of fans, though. They're like, oh, my God, we're terrible. We can't ever win on the road.
Yeah.
And then you forget everybody else losing on the road, too. But it doesn't matter because you want your team to win every game, and it's the worst thing ever when it happens to your team. But when other people do it, it's like, see, y'all can't win. It's like you forget it happens to every. Tennessee lost yesterday to Texas A&M. Where was Texas A&M ranked yesterday?
We weren't,
and they got beat bad. Like it was a double-digit loss.
Yeah.
So
it's the exact same.
Auburn's not the only team that this happens to.
Yeah.
Ernest Vaughn says the tourneys aren't real road games and AU travels well. We'll be fine.
Yeah, we'll be fine, mostly because everybody's playing under the same constraints. Nobody's got a home court advantage. Nobody's got 4 days off where you had 1 day off. I mean, unless you're like a 68, 67, we're trying to play your way in. But other than that, the field is even, and that's the advantage of the tournament.
What I would say to this, again, I know I've been kind of the negative one here, but past 2 seasons, we begin to see certain things that we needed to improve with this team, especially when they traveled, whether it's a neutral site game or a road game. And when we got to the tournament, those things had not been addressed or fixed. and we got exposed in those games.
Yeah.
I'm not saying
I
that
think there's a difference this year, though. In the neutral site games, Auburn has played okay.
they played okay. They lost.
Yeah.
They lost to Baylor.
But
They blew out. They blew out.
That's
what was
the
it?
only neutral site game they lost was Baylor, and that was a close game. That was
It was a
the,
close
the,
game.
the issue in that Baylor game was definitely turnovers, and they just hadn't kind of figured it out that first game of the season, how they wanted to rotate people, all that kind of thing.
Sure.
You haven't seen the Baylor game issues pop up again, and you fixed your ability to be able to get to the offensive glass. Again, I don't take anything from yesterday because yesterday was different. But when you talk
They
about
looked
what
better
happened,
against Bama.
they looked better against Bama. They looked better against Ole Miss second half. So you know how you can improve the things. The only thing that I think that is going to be an issue that will continue to be an issue are things that you can't control, which is you have a young backcourt and Janai Broome can't automatically jump to be 7'4", right? And so guys who are 7 feet and taller are going to bother his shot.
Yeah.
But everything else, I mean, you kind of are who you are. You're a bad 3-point shooting team, or
we're not a bad
3-point shooting
We're
team.
better.
You're not, but you're not going to automatically become a 38% three-point shooting team, right? So you just kind of are who you are there. And then you've got to figure out how you're going to be a little bit better in terms of your ability to they've gotten better on the offensive glass. The defensive glass, closing out possessions. The biggest thing is you got to turn people over more than you didn't turn Florida over nearly enough. So that defense has got to show up every single game the same way, which is we got to get double-digit turnovers, and you got to stop turning the daggone ball over so much.
Yeah, that's it. Kinsley Moore says, hey, guys, would love to know if you expected the letdown post-Bama like I assumed we would. It looks like I was right, unfortunately. Thoughts? I was worried about this game, just again, because it's a road game. And road games are tough. Obviously, you can argue the letdown post-Bama, but again, Auburn has too many upperclassmen on this team who've played a lot of basketball, who played Bama a lot of times. All right, a lot of big games have been won at home, and you had to go out on the road, which means you should have the leadership necessary to be able to alleviate that. I think what happened in this game was some things that, again, fatigue, a team that had a lot of time to prepare, and again, just addressing some of the challenges that you've been dealing with when on the road. And it's a road game; it's just tough.
Yeah, I expected it to be a tough game because because Florida's good. They're not a bad team, but I think it was probably made worse by the fact that they had a lot of time to keep us off balance and out of our game. But the fatigue thing is interesting to see. I don't really put much into the fact of fatigue. That's why you got 10 dudes playing. Like, that's supposed to be the advantage of being able to go so deep. Now, it doesn't mean every guy that you have on your bench can do everything the other guy can do. So you can't say, hey, you're tired, get in, and we have the exact same advantage. You don't. So that does become a factor. You need matchups to make sense. You can't just say, hey, are you tired, Trey? Well, let's bring Chaney Johnson in here. Like, no, he's not the point. He's not the point guard. So that's not a valid substitution. You have to play guys. You have to put Aiden out there when Trey Donaldson needs a spell. And Aiden isn't playing up to the level we expect him to play to once he's reached his potential here. So you have point guard deficiencies at certain times. Trey didn't even play the greatest game I've seen him play. So that
Trey had a bad game. I'm sorry, it was not the greatest game. It was bad.
I was trying to be nice, but yeah, he didn't have a good game. So I don't. Fatigue certainly comes into it. I think it was emotional fatigue, if anything. Emotional fatigue. These guys aren't playing like 30, 35 minutes a game like they had to. Some guys had to like last year, the year before that. We aren't seeing that. So I don't think fatigue should necessarily be the issue here. But I do think Florida being so well rested probably is the biggest part of it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're comparing it to Florida's rest, then yes, fatigue is an issue.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But if Florida had the same amount of rest as Auburn did, then I think it wouldn't have been as big a factor.
Right. All right, gentlemen, before we get to the drawing and get out of here, Steph Trail asks, who y'all got in the Super Bowl? Wesley Hilson asks, I know who Ike has. So, with that saying, That being said, Ike.
What's up? Are y'all ready to do the drawing?
Hold on, let me see. Where you?
Y'all ready to do the drawing?
Who you got, Ike? Why would you do that? See, it messed that up. Oh, I thought you was trying to move him to a different spot because where I was looking.
Oh yeah. Looking forward to a good game, man. But let's do this drawing.
What will make it a good game exactly? I'm just curious.
Fierce competition and nobody getting injured. Good halftime show.
Good halftime show. You ready to see Ursh?
I mean, I probably won't watch the halftime show, but I think a lot of people.
Oh, you gonna be whose locker room? You gonna be?
He gonna be coaching them up in the locker room.
Who you gonna be coaching? Who you gonna be coaching up? Who you gonna be coaching up? I'm just curious.
I'm gonna watch the game, man. I'm gonna enjoy it.
You gonna coach linebackers or DBs? Like who you gonna be coaching up?
I'm just watching the game, man. You know what I'm saying?
Watching the game. I mean, I'm just watching the game, but I'm just watching the game. I'm watching the game. You're gonna be watching the game. If okay, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this.
I'm ready to do the drawing, bro. I don't know why we.
I know you are.
Talking about
I know you are. I know you are.
Auburn is not playing in the Super Bowl.
Sure. The Niners, and the Chiefs are playing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Two very good teams. Looking forward to seeing a good game.
So Joe Montana was at his best when he played for the Niners or the Chiefs.
What is that a real question?
Just answer the game. Ask the question, man.
So y'all ready to do this drawing, man? Y'all ready?
I just want you to say the Niners so bad, man.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to it, man. We giving away. Who you got, B? Who you got?
I've been thinking Chiefs. I had been pulling Chiefs because I just want to see something dynastic happen in the NFL. I want Patrick Mahomes. He's that good. But if you don't do as much winning, then people are going to be debating whether or not you're good. I really want to kind of flush the Tom Brady discussion out of the NFL. He's gone. It's been gone. I want him, Patrick Mahomes, to be the new. We might be looking at real history here. And you got to win these games to do that. I don't have a reason to dislike the San Francisco 49ers. I don't. So, if they win, I'm not upset. But I want that dynastic discussion that happens when a guy wins as much as Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid could have won if they win today's game. But I'm actually starting to feel like San Francisco's going to do it. I ain't going to lie to you. That's how I'm feeling. San
Francisco's the better team, much like I thought Baltimore was the better team.
That
However,
was disappointing from them.
However, they just don't have Patrick Mahomes, man.
Yeah, man.
That dude can ball, bruh.
Again, especially in the biggest
49ers
moments,
should win this game, but man, it's gonna be a good game. I think I'm gonna go Chiefs. I'm gonna go Chiefs here. But again, I'm not mad. I'm not mad if the Niners win it and pull it out. I'm not mad at it at all. But. Yeah. What this has been one of the most impressive seasons for the Chiefs, considering how they've looked all regular season. They've looked real beatable. They look real beatable for them to get here. So, Ike, any other comments on this? Any thoughts? I
don't have any thoughts, man. Just looking forward to the game.
You should be looking forward to this mug, courtesy of GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. Ike's ready to draw so he can go and root for his team in the Super Bowl. You got a shirt you gonna wear, or you just gonna have on the Warport stuff for the I'm curious, Ike. Just one more question. You gonna be what you gonna be rocking for the Super Bowl? You gonna be supporting?
Nah, I don't put on any particular clothes to watch football games. I just watch them.
Just hit the draw button, bro.
Ready. Somebody's got to win a mug. We're going to get to it, baby. GWT2 Energy Consulting Services sponsoring this giveaway. Today's winner is Haley.
Haley! We know her.
Yeah, she's definitely
here.
She
Haley?
just commented a minute ago. So
yeah, she's in here.
The only thing I ask is if Haley, I know you probably already got a mug. I already know.
Oh, that's true. I don't know whether or not she got a mug.
Now, if you want another one,
I don't know if she's ever won. I don't know if she's ever. She might have bought her own, but I don't know if she's ever won anything.
She may already have a mug. I know she hasn't. Won, but I know she She be rocking our merch pretty heavy.
Oh, she
There
said it
you
got
go.
broken.
So she wants a mug then.
So yeah, she needs to get a replacement. There we
It
go.
got broke. Haley, don't break this one. All right. This is a special mug. All right. These are the kind that don't break. Hit us up. You already know how to hit us up. Congratulations and all that good stuff. Ike, tell the people what they need to be doing, sir.
Yeah, Green Name Gang. Check in with your boy. We got plenty of stuff that we're going to be doing this off season for football, basketball stuff's happening. So make sure that you get your membership active so we can get into all of that stuff. If you are a member, you want to gift a membership, you can do that from the live chat right now. Somebody can get a free month of membership on you. Check in with the podcast network. If you listen in audio format, we got y'all Monday through Friday. We'll be dropping pods for y'all with all kinds of great information about your Auburn Tigers. If you didn't get a chance to win anything, hit up the merch store. TheWarReport.com is your space for that. And a lot of great information is out there on that site as well. That's it.
And we need you to share this video, guys, with your friends, Auburn fans. Have the conversation. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. You can find us on X, IG, even Facebook at The War Report. We're at TW Report on TikTok. We will definitely catch you guys in the morning for the morning drop. Until then, enjoy your Super Bowl. Hope your team wins, Ike. And as always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.